Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another edition of Dragon Ball Super Reviews and Predictions, in which I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Dragon Ball Super Episode 31 and my predictions for what's going to come in Episode 32. Well, a lot of stuff happened on this episode of Dragon Ball Super, so without further ado, let's get started and start talking about all the stuff that happened in this episode. Well, basically with this episode, what started off is essentially that Jaco was on his way back to Earth. And we saw a flashback to last episode, of the actual content that happened. And basically, Jaco is on his way to Earth, and he kind of intercepts a call, or he gets a call when he's on his way to the planet talking about another alien species that's apparently out there, and I guess some kind of frog creature that looks like Slippy the Frog from Star Fox, except red and a guy. I think Slippy was a guy, I don't remember. But the fact of the matter is, basically, he kind of seemed to be out there, and Jaco was, maybe supposed to be able to reprimand him. But basically, Jaco had to go on his way to Earth because of the threats that Bulma was telling to him about Vegeta probably attacking the entire, Galactic Patrol. And basically, once he was there, Bulma kind of persuaded him, first off by being, sexy, and then second by punching him in the head to kind of take her to the center of the universe, or the galaxy, so that she could use her Universal Dragon Ball radar for the Super Dragon Balls. And basically, at this point, Jaco actually brought up another idea, in which he told her about this character known as Zuno, this all-knowing character who lives at the center of the universe. And basically, he said to Bulma that he would actually take her there. And so naturally, at this point, after Bulma heard about all of this, she agreed and decided to go with Jaco to meet Zuno on his planet. It's an interesting looking planet, as you can see, in this picture. For example, it looks almost like a box of candy or something like that, with all these different trees, which I assume they're trees that are, multicolored, almost looking like a box of taffy. And basically at this point in time, they decide to go to the planet, and on their way there, we end up seeing what we saw in the next episode preview, and a lot of people, including myself, thought it might have possibly been Bra or Bulla, the daughter of Bulma and Vegeta, but it ended up actually being a flashback to when Bulma was a kid in the Jaco the Galactic Patrolman manga, which they never really animated except for in this specific case. And basically we see Bulma flying around this ship, we see Jaco and Tights, Bulma's sister, many years earlier, actually watching as she does this, and Jaco naturally is flipping out because she sees that, he sees that Bulma is flying around like this, but of course Tights reiterates that Bulma is a genius. After all, she did fix the ship in the manga, and she did a lot of crazy stuff throughout the course of the series, so we know that she's a genius. But basically after this, they made their way to the planet, they reached there, and then we saw Zuno's attendants. And basically, even though in the manga, for example, they immediately went to see him, in this case they actually say that apparently Zuno is booked for 7 straight years, so they're not going to be able to get in. That is until this Slippy the Frog looking dude shows up, and apparently he is on Jaco's bad side. The two face off and then eventually get into a kind of predicament, as this guy is afraid of Jaco and the Galactic Patrol in general, and he takes one of Zuno's attendants hostage. And so Jaco, in a really cool scene, just beats the crap out of this guy and saves the day, saving the attendant, and of course, out of generosity, he decides to say, oh, come on in, you can meet Zuno, and you can ask for whatever you want to ask him, because he knows everything. So basically, they go in there, and they see Zuno, and, they're kind of shocked by just how gigantic he is. He's basically just a giant version in a floating Bowser from Super Mario World, thing of the other guys. So basically, they talk to him, and basically the way that you actually get to ask him questions is you give him a gift. And Jaco comes up to him and kisses him on the cheek. And so because Jaco's a guy, Jaco only gets like 2 questions. So naturally, Jaco's first question is, how big is Bulma's bust size? And basically Zuno, knowing everything, immediately tells him, oh, it used to be this, but then it's sagging because of this, because she's older or breastfeeding or whatever it happens to be. And so Jaco then is like, oh, really? And Zuno's like, yes, now your questions are over. So Jaco wasted his second question. So naturally, Bulma was pissed off, hit Jaco in the head, and naturally, Bulma goes over to this guy and kisses him on the cheek and gets her own questions. And naturally, because she's a girl, she's going to get some more questions out of it. So basically, she asks Zuno to tell her everything about the Super Dragon Balls, and he proceeds to do so for a very lengthy period of time, and eventually his voice starts to actually speed up and speed up and speed up as he continues to tell people like this. And it's a pretty funny scene, and Bulma's actually taking notes the entire time. But at this point in time, Bulma does the exact kind of same mistake that Jaco did in kind of asking, you know, two meaningless questions, and so she loses the other opportunities to ask Zuno exactly where the Dragon Ball is located. So they're not able to actually find the location of it, but they do learn pretty much everything about it aside from that. And this is basically the exact same scene in the exact same episode and retelling of what we saw in the manga. I mean, at this point in time, the episode was basically over. Bulma tried to get some more out of Zuno, but just didn't work out. She goes back to the planet, and Jaco leaves with this guy tied up, you know, to his chair, and that's basically it. I mean, for this episode, it's essentially just the strict retelling of what we actually saw in this chapter of the manga, except for the fact that there was that frog character that was inserted into it. Overall, I would say it's pretty good. You know, for the series, we actually got some more exposition, we got to see some more interesting characters. Zuno and the other people around him are some really cool designs that we haven't seen in Dragon Ball before. Very Japanese. His whole planet is really cool looking, and I really enjoyed it thoroughly overall. But aside from that, I would have to say that it seems like this is all just building up and building up to this coming tournament. And of course, that's going to lead into my predictions for the next episode. And basically, in this next episode preview, we actually get to see some of the members of Team Universe 6. Now, of course, there's going to be some spoilers at this point in the actual predictions, because we already know in the manga, and, you know, pretty much everyone already knows who these characters are at this point in time, so if you don't want to see this, just click off right now. But basically, the character on the left is who seems to look like Cell or something like that. We don't really know yet, but his name is Heat, and the one to his right is Kabe, who is another Saiyan from Planet Salad in Universe 6. And Planet Salad is the original homeworld of the Saiyan race. And basically, that is the planet that was destroyed by, I guess, the legendary Super Saiyan, or whatever the actual mythology happens to be at this point in time. And, basically, in that universe, all the Saiyans are actually good, and Frieza's race, I guess, hasn't kind of persecuted them and kind of enslaved them or destroyed their planet, kind of like Frieza did. In fact, Frieza doesn't even exist in that universe. Instead, there was another very similar Frieza race character known as Frost, who is actually Emperor of the universe. And all these different team members apparently are going to be shown in this next coming episode, and I guess that they're actually going to be telling you who exactly they are on that team. And so I'm basically going to predict that, unless of course they just kind of tease us and show them off, it seems like everyone is going to make their way to this unnamed planet in neutral territory in the next episode. We're going to meet the next episode members, you know, of the members of Universe 6. Goku is going to interact with them. We're going to see Monaka. All this different stuff is going to happen in the next coming episode, which is probably going to lead into the episode after that where the tournament actually begins. In fact, this little picture right here seems very reminiscent of in the manga, when essentially they're all taking that sort of test, you know, the written test, which, you know, again, Buu kind of failed, leaving it to be a 4-on-5 situation, unless, of course, they kind of try and insert Gohan or someone else into that situation somehow. I would love it if Goku kind of just teleports there and grabs Gohan, you know, from the conference in the middle of like a speech or in the middle of, you know, his PowerPoint presentation. He's like, yeah, son, I don't care, you know, you gotta come help us fight. And he's like, Dad, I'm in the middle of, he's like, shut up, and he just teleports there. That'd be great. But, yeah, essentially, I mean, this has been the episode. This has been my predictions for the episode, and I'm looking forward to the next week. Let me know your own thoughts down below. Are you guys looking forward to the next week? Did you see this episode yet? And if you did, what were your own thoughts on it? Because overall, I really enjoyed it. Big step up from last week, because last week, again, nothing happened except for 20 seconds of Gohan training, which might as well have not even been shown considering the fact that it makes no difference or impact at this point in time. But overall, let me know your own thoughts down below. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.